Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
Think about something you throw away every day without a second thought. Now, imagine that thing takes 400 years to disappear. That's the reality with tennis balls, and we go through millions of them. But there's some good news. In Qingdao, they've figured out how to turn 20,000 dead balls into something that you can actually play on. We'll tell you all about that today. And then, imagine a college student who's never sent a formal email in their entire life. They grew up on WeChat, on DMs, on messages that start with hey and end with nothing. And then one day they're expected to email a professor or a company, and no one ever taught them how. Well, that's driving professors and employers crazy. The issue of young people not knowing how to write an email has gone viral in China, but is it their fault? Coming to you from our studios in Beijing, this is Roundtable. I'm Steve Hatherley. Thanks for joining us this episode. And for today's show, I'm with Yushun and Yushan. Yushan, good afternoon to you both. I'm excited about our topic today because we get to talk about tennis, kind of.
Not a tennis player, though. Me.
Never?
Are you a tennis fan?
Well, oh my gosh, I used to be obsessed with tennis when I was like 17, 18, 19 years old in Canada. My friend and I used to play every day in the summertime. I took tennis lessons for a while. I used to watch all the big tennis tournaments that happen around the world, like the US Open and Wimbledon and the French Open and things like that. So yeah, and I don't think we've ever gotten a chance to really talk about tennis on Roundtable before. So let's do it today. Although, admittedly, it is a little bit of a different topic because we're not talking about people exercising as much as we're talking about the recycling of tennis balls. Really good learning opportunity, I think, for all of us today because at least I, didn't know how bad they are for the environment.
Yeah, especially for people outside of the game itself who is perhaps new to the game or never had a chance to try it before, like people like you and I, Yushun.
I thought tennis ball can be last forever because it's just a ball with rubber, right?
Yeah.
It can bounce back. And it's just usable when it can bounce back, though.
For me, I never thought that recycling tennis ball is a good idea. I thought it's just out there and people throw it away after it lost its bounces. So what? But here in China, something that happened recently, especially in the past 2 months, kind of shook our idea on just how big a difference it can make.
It can make a huge difference. And we're going to start our story today in the beautiful city of Qingdao. So what's the connection between Qingdao and tennis balls and recycling tennis balls?
You see, normally, especially for Chinese people, when you think of Qingdao, you just immediately think of the beautiful seaside because it's a very popular
And maybe the beer.
seaside. Yeah, and a good drink. But tennis court, it's something less associated with the city, but recently, just by their very beautiful beach and seaside view, there's a brand new tennis court built there, and all coated in light blue color. And local citizens and tennis lovers are already playing tennis inside that court. And what's really astonishing for us to learn is that this is China's first tennis court built using recycled tennis balls. So it's kind of developed by the sports brand Fila. So over the course of 2 months, the brand collected over 20,000 discarded tennis balls from more than 40 tennis clubs across the 16 Chinese cities, just so that they have enough balls to be put together, put into a series of process of crushing the ball and remaking the ball so that these over 20,000 tennis balls are remade into a brand new tennis court.
Yeah, it's cool. I've never heard of this type of thing before.
Yeah, me neither.
And actually, if you are standing on that kind of court, you wouldn't even notice that it is a court that made of tennis balls because the court still performs like a professional tennis court, yet beneath the surface is the material that would otherwise have ended up in landfill because that what we're talking about. They crush and shredded these discarded tennis balls and make it underneath this tennis court. And it's a kind of striking example of how waste can be turned back into something very, very useful.
Yeah, there were media reports, and some local players in Qingdao were talking about the experience of playing on the court that was made from recycled balls, and they said you can't really tell any difference at all.
Yeah, it bounces perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so it's a nice thing that we're taking something that was bad for the environment and we are breaking it down and using it in its same place, which is kind of cool. Tennis balls being used to make tennis courts. But why is this such an issue all of a sudden? Because, tennis has been around for a long time, and I think we can safely say it's a growing sport. In China. It's becoming more and more popular these days. Still kind of tough to find a court if you're looking to play, but that being said, still lots of people enjoy playing it. It's great exercise. So yeah, why now? Why the issue with tennis balls?
I think we need to start with the very fact that a tennis ball, after discarded, often previously end up in a landfill, like in the garbage. But for a normal tennis ball, it will take almost over 400 years for it to completely break down in the soil. I think for one, that's already a big issue. Imagine how many tennis balls out there that the world is discarding every day, and all of that burdening our very ground.
330 million tennis balls every year. 330 million tennis balls every year around the world are simply thrown away.
So, we are seeing this as a big challenge also because the balls themselves, the tennis balls, they are not meant to build for like easy decomposition or something. It's meant for lasting because ever since it first became like popular game among the world back over in the 1920s, it's already sort of in the shape like how it has been nowadays.
Yeah,
so over the past century, it hasn't really changed much.
Yeah, the balls that existed in the 1920s are basically the same thing that you get now.
Yeah, with a rubber core wrapped up by a blend of wool and nylon. So it's like how we imagine it to be a neon green ball ever since over 100 years ago. And yeah, they also use industrial strength glue to blend the outside felt onto the ball, which makes it all very hard to recycle from the start.
Yeah, the way it's put together is just a real pain to take it apart, to disassemble it, because of you've got the felt on the outside, you've got the rubber core, and then you've got some industrial glue that's holding it together, and it's just really difficult to do, to recycle.
Which means that it's supposed to be durable. And and they are durable. But for a lot of these competitions and maybe some amateur players or professional players, they use them quite a lot.
Right.
Many like recreational players open a fresh can every time they play.
Well,
that's what I saw.
Yeah, I don't know if that's entirely true that you'd use a new can of balls. Typically, when you buy a can of tennis balls, it looks like a cylinder, right? And then maybe I think there's 3 or 4 balls in one cylinder, and you might use those for an entire summer if it's just you and I going out to play tennis with each other. So I wouldn't say they open up fresh balls every single time. But that being said, they do break down. That yellow felt on the outside, it gets worn away slowly but surely until eventually, it'll get worn down to the point where it's just the rubber ball on the inside. And when it gets worn down to a point, it just doesn't behave the same way on the court. And that's why players use a lot of them.
I know people change like badminton very, very frequently.
Okay.
The feather break very easily.
I know, but for tennis balls, I didn't realize that during the 2022 Wimbledon championships alone, more than 55,000 tennis balls were used over the course of a 2-week tournament.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Under the sports equipment regulations.
I guess the more professional you get, the harder you hit the ball and the faster it loses its
Or
bounce.
it's just like as long as you're using it, it's not that perfect anymore. Then of course professional players want that ball to have the perfect and the best performance that they can get.
Yeah.
That's why they're replacing it very, very frequently.
Isn't that an astonishing number? 55,000 tennis balls over the course of a couple of weeks. It's a fortnight, right? Wimbledon, it's a 2-week tournament, and they use that many balls. Roland Garros, that's another one of the tournaments that I used to watch when I was a teenager, they use 60,000 over the course. That's the French Open. They use 60,000 during the course of the tournament. So, yeah, we're talking about a tennis court in Qingdao, but that just illustrates that all adds up. You can imagine the number of tennis courts in China. You can imagine the number of tennis courts all around the world.
Yeah.
And that's why we see 330 million thrown away on a yearly basis. And you already said it. It takes 400 years, 4 centuries for these things to break down. Now, because so many balls are used and because they take so long to recycle, it's now on the radar of the International Tennis Federation.
Yeah, since recent years, I believe the International Tennis Federation has already established such a technical working group, and that was back in 2022, bringing together manufacturers of these balls and tournament organizers and recycling companies just so that they can explore how the game can run in a more sustainable way. Some companies even try to just start from the very beginning of the game, how they can make a ball that's completely out of recyclable materials. But it turns out they did make out such a product, a tennis ball, containing 30% of recycled materials. But it turns out that it's, well, if you're
Not the same.
it's not that good. If you're an amateur player, you probably wouldn't feel much of a difference, but if you're just using it for elite competition, it doesn't meet the federation standard for something like that. So people have tried worldwide, and that previous experiences accumulated just makes successful recycling projects so rare and also so valuable and significant as we see it nowadays.
Yeah, there are different projects around the world. One of them in the United States is a nonprofit. It's called Recycle Balls.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward what it's with its title, and they collect used tennis balls from different clubs and parks and universities and tournaments. They do that across the United States. They do it across Canada as well. It's kind of a partnership there, and that alone allows them to collect about 3 million balls every single year. And instead of ending up in a landfill, which is what would happen for the longest time, do you know what they do with the used tennis balls?
Yeah.
Or handicrafts. That's what I can think of.
Well, one of them, Yushan, you'll love this.
Okay.
They're used as dog toys.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, nice.
The dogs that I grew up
makes
with,
sense.
we always had a tennis ball. You play fetch with that, right?
We use table tennis balls sometimes here in China, but well, yeah, that would be a good
Yeah.
playmate for the doggies.
That and if you're watching and you're not familiar with this little life hack at home, you can do this. If you have an old tennis ball, you cut it in half, and then you put the bottom half. Well, they're both bottom halves, I guess. You put it
outside.
underneath the leg of a table or a chair. So if you imagine you have a heavy table in your house and you try to pull it across the floor, then you're going to make that squeaking sound or maybe even make a mark on the floor. So if you put 4 half tennis balls underneath the legs of the table, then it's easier to slide across the floor. It doesn't look that good. You're not going to win any design awards for that, I don't think. But yeah, that's where a lot of those tennis balls go.
Yeah, and also previously, some other companies tried something similar as what Fila did in the Qingdao court too. They managed to come up with the whole idea of just how recycle old tennis balls and shred them and fill them up as new court is doable, just like how what we're describing these days, the Qingdao new project.
Well, the Jingdao project itself, just from collecting discarded tennis balls and then turning it into that finished court, they reduce carbon emissions by about 12 or so metric tons. Now, that number doesn't mean necessarily much, but that's about the same amount of carbon absorbed by 4.5 hectares in a forest in a year. That's a lot of that's a big difference, and it's a lot of land when you compare it like that. So it's a worthwhile project, I guess,
Right.
is what I'm trying to say, and it does make a significant difference. But if we're talking about big breakthroughs, then maybe the court isn't the most real one or the most significant one, even though that on its own is impressive. It's proving that one of the biggest problems that existed within a sport in terms of being bad for the environment has finally found a solution.
Or I think it is also from another perspective, it is reminding people that there are, because as a person who don't play tennis or probably just watch tennis from time to time, you wouldn't even notice or realize that tennis balls is a like environmental issue for the whole world. And now it is the time for people at least understand and realize that there is an issue worldwide and we can actually have some solutions for it.
Yeah, that's
And the numbers that you just said is actually a kind of big change for probably in the future.
why I wanted to talk about this story today because I mean I even played tennis when I was younger, but I never think about tennis balls and I never think about their impact on the environment. So this is
Yeah.
cool. We said I just want to cover this just quickly. We said that it's we said that it's difficult to recycle the tennis balls. What's the process actually like? I guess step one is they break the ball apart. Where does it go from there?
Well, yeah, actually, that step one is kind of the biggest challenge people used to encounter when trying to recycle tennis balls previously. Because, like we mentioned, how it's the outside fuzzy layer of nylon and wool mixture is tightly glued to the core. Now, what they do is to break the ball apart. Now, we're saving you guys all the technical terms here, but basically the collected old tennis balls are first crushed by machine, allowing the felt covering to be separated from the rubber core. So that's step one. And now that that's cracked, the following steps are more or less just categorized to materials, the felt, the outside layer, and the core, the rubber core, and kind of put them in different.
To be honest, I've never
Processes.
seen what's inside a tennis ball.
Me neither.
It's hollow. What did you think?
really?
Yeah, you can kind of squeeze it, right? You can't fully squeeze it, but
It's hollow inside?
yeah, it's empty inside. Well, as far as I know, yeah, because when you cut open a tennis ball, like I said before, when you put them under the legs
Yeah.
of your table, there's nothing in there.
Okay.
It's just a hollow. It's just a hollow ball. I guess that's why it bounces so well. Yeah.
New knowledge, though.
Yeah, but anyhow, after they're put into two categories, the core and the felt, they don't simply just throw away one part, but instead it's processed into recycled textile materials, and that by that I'm mentioning the outside felt. Meanwhile, the rubber undergoes further purification and processing before being transformed into recycled EPDM rubber granules. Now, you might not need to know what EPDM is, but it's just a highly durable synthetic rubber that's widely used because it's flexible and that it's UV light kind of resistant, and that it can also resistant like wet condition like a rainy day and stuff like that. So it's all kind of plan ahead before this whole separation
cool.
is done.
It's cool that the players don't notice any difference either, right? Because
Yeah.
a tennis court, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like you're stepping on pavement, but it's kind of like you're stepping on pavement, depending on the type of court. If you're playing on, there's different types of courts too, right? There's a hard court, which I think is what we're talking about in Qingdao. Where that feels like pavement a little bit, but it's also just like 1% cushy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you've got grass courts and clay courts and things like that
They
too.
need very sophisticated design on these courts, just like a football field.
Yeah.
Because it feels very, very differently when you're wearing different types of shoes on different types of grass. That's why it is quite actually very important for a professional athlete to actually step on these kind of fields.
Yeah, and so the different types of courts, like apparently the balls that are designed for clay courts are different than the balls that are designed for grass courts. Are different from the balls that are designed for hard courts. But this is all at a pro level, and I don't really know. I mean, for me, when I was playing in Canada, you just go to the sports store and buy a can of balls, and they're all kind of the same.
And for the Qingdao case, the court is kind of built from the recycled rubber granules. That's kind of cushioning layer, as you described earlier. And it's at the very last step, the workers will apply a fast-drying, low volatile organic compound kind of like a tint on the outer layer, and it's also environmentally friendly.
Well, is the whole process environmentally friendly? Because
It's meant to be, yeah.
but the chemicals that are, you said there are a lot of chemicals involved in the making of a tennis ball. So what happens when you break those down? Is everything okay there?
I think that could be one of the hard parts of recycling these kind of tennis balls, because at the moment it is relatively a young industry of recycling the whole tennis balls and everything. And at the moment there are very few studies looking specifically at its like long-term environmental and also healthy health impacts. Because when
Right.
you're shredding these kind of tennis balls, there's got to be these rubber particles that is spreading away, right? And then when
Yeah,
humans are inhaling
I
these
was
kind of
just
things,
about
that's
to
got to
say,
be
yeah,
hazardous.
the micro
Plastic.
versions of those could find their way into people's lungs. Well, let's talk about the challenges a little bit since we've kind of opened that door. I'm guessing that one of them has to be about the collection because, this example in Qingdao is an example of one tennis court, one tennis club. And then you've got, you said 16 different Chinese cities, right? So, but still, if you think on a bigger scale, maybe nationwide, even only using China as an example, collecting all of these tennis balls would be a really difficult thing because, of course, you've got pro players, but this is a sport mostly played by amateur people who are doing it as a hobby.
Yeah.
And you don't know you take your tennis balls home with you when you're finished playing, right? So where do they end up? How do you track these things? Because I think a lot of people, because they don't know that they're damaging the environment when they throw them away, that's exactly what they do. They just throw it out with their trash.
It's not like batteries, but because on every trash can there's got a little slot for you to put batteries in, the wasted batteries.
Yeah.
But there are no like place for people to throw their own like discarded tennis balls.
Yeah, right.
And for amateur players, they will just throw it in the garbage can and then throw it with other garbage.
Even if you live in a place where your recyclables are very well organized, right? Like your plastics go here, your papers go here. What do you do with a tennis ball?
Well, that's why.
Right?
That's why outside of for example, the courts gate in a lot of the tennis clubs and the venues that offers places for you to play tennis, or people actually go to these specific places for playing tennis. Outside of these places, there are buckets set for collections, and it's done not only in China but also by that very organization you mentioned earlier, Recycle Balls. That's what they do. They encourage children after practicing, throw balls into the very much designated bins that has a little label on, saying that it's for recycle, and so that's where it goes. That's a good way for just common tennis players to try to recycle things. But I think more importantly for tournaments, for those opens that we mentioned, these events, they play a bigger role in calling onto people's attention on why it's important that we recycle it and how, as an event, we can gather around and have the balls used during the tournament to be recycled.
What would be an example of that?
Well, here in China, we also have China Open. And in 2024, the China Open organizers partnered with one of the universities here in China, in Beijing actually, the Beijing University of Technology, to introduce their latest innovation on an AI-powered machine. It looks like a wardrobe where you can toss the balls inside. And inside that machine, with AI-powered analysis and facilitation process, they can tell the worn-out level of the ball you throw in. If it's still in good condition, it's
Spits it back out?
yeah, it's going to be put in. Not spit it back out, but it's going to put in one category, and if it's too worn, it's going to end up in another category. So what they did in 2024 was that by this machine, they collected nearly 2,000 used tennis balls, and those that end up in the first bin, those that's not too much worn, still usable, they were donated to Fuping County in Hebei province nearby, near Beijing, to support their local grassroots tennis development, like for the kids, for public schools. And then those are too worn, too damaged in a way that they cannot be used anymore. They were just donated to the labs for further like scientific research on how to break them down. So yeah.
And also, technology alone isn't enough because public participation will be just also as important. Of course, you were saying that there are several methods and maybe intelligent ways of collecting these kind of balls. But the thing is that if people are not participating in these kind of events, it's still very hard for you to, actually collect these balls. And at the 2025 China Open, organizers launched a Give Tennis Balls a Second Life campaign, inviting fans to donate their used tennis balls while learning more about recycling process through interactive exhibits and also games, maybe test your accuracy when you're throwing to that machine.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And also to encourage participation, anyone donating 3 used balls could choose rewards including discounted tennis lessons, AI training vouchers, or food and beverage discounts. And that is a simple but creative way of making recycling part of the overall tennis experience.
Yeah, I think it's smart too to use platforms like the 2025 China Open,
Yeah.
one of the biggest, if not the biggest, tennis event in the country. Use that platform to educate people, get them involved, let them know, that these balls need to be recycled, that they're not great for the environment. Get the
Right.
kids involved. Yeah, it's a great thing. But it's not just about tennis. If we look at the wider sports industry, the idea of recycling sporting equipment is starting to gain more and more traction. And it also is kind of timely for us to talk about this because coming up soon, we have National Ecological Day here in China. So these two, there's a bit of overlap between our sports story and the day coming up.
Yes, every year, I think starting from 2023, we have the National Ecological Day here in China landing on August the 15th. So it's a time for us to really raise public awareness by hosting the main event at one place and just share what we've done lately, what are the recent current policies pointing at in terms of recycling, in terms of ecological protection and conservation, and also where we're heading next time in the next few years. So in many ways, the stories today, like you mentioned, Steve, kind of echoes with the vibe of this National Ecological Day too, because going green nowadays is no longer just about protecting the environment, like how we mentioned it back in a decade ago. Now it's more about, yes, we need to go green, and this is happening in all different industries. The forestry protection, how brands are making products more green so that it also echoes with it. And you see, this is a whole economic opportunity for these brands to come up with something greener and more sustainable, because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be the consumers to always stay alerted, to always realize what's recyclable and what's not, and always have the awareness from their end on what they can do or what we can do to protect the environment. It's up to the upper stream, the industries, the manufacturers to make decisions like that too.
Yeah, and that's what customers like that.
Yeah.
When companies show a certain sense of responsibility for the environment, that tends to go over very well with customers.
It feels like a lot of these waste recycling industry can be a really, really big industry, and we are just not yet discovered a lot of them because we also had a discussion on the industry of recycling smartphones. That is also such a very big
And
industry.
complicated.
Yeah, of course, because there are so many very important, like iron, gold, silver inside a smartphone, and they're as we all say, one person's trash could be another person's treasure. So a lot of them can be turned into a very, very big industry and make a lot of money out of it. So it is very economic related when we are actually talking about recycling a whole bunch of probably millions of trillions of tennis balls.
Yeah. Earlier this year, too, I mean, we have National Ecological Day coming up very soon, but also earlier this year, the top legislature here in China, they passed the country's first ecological and environmental code, and that officially comes into effect. There's a lot of overlap in this story today
Yeah.
because that officially comes into effect on that day as well.
Yeah, on the very day that we mentioned, August the 15th. And speaking of the code, code. The code also encourages the wider use of recycled materials. It calls for the establishment of national standards and certification system and provides tax incentives and other policy support for companies that manufacture products using recycled resources. So you see, it's not only just that we're requiring the industry to go greener, it's actually beneficial for brands to come up with
Yeah.
greener ideas and like economically beneficial ideas that follow suit.
That's also a lot of the concepts and idea of a lot of these companies. Actually, I don't remember the exact stats, but I think there are stats showing that when companies are launching or releasing like environmental friendly products, like I think it is a laptop brand, they designed their like packaging box as a reusable box that you can use it as a laptop stand.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
And then that attract a lot of people. So when companies are using these kind of ideas, they actually attract more consumers to buy that. And I think that's also the idea of the consumers. They will prefer these kind of products, and more people will realize the importance of protecting and maybe also recycling a lot of these resources.
Well, it's not just the products. I mean, that's wonderful. The tennis court we talked about, but it's also venues as well. There's a baseball field called the Strike for Zero baseball field. What is the name of the location where it is? Dongguan is where that baseball
Yeah,
field is?
Dongguan in southern China's Guangdong province.
They-
It's a really smart name, Strike for Zero.
Yeah, that baseball field was built using 90% recyclable, environmentally friendly materials. The fencing, at the back of a baseball field, you have the fence there. Well, that fencing contains nearly 10,000 recycled plastic bottles on the fence. It's pretty cool.
Plastic bottles.
That's how they made
Do
it.
you hang them on the
I haven't seen
fence?
pictures of it.
Okay.
The bases are cool too. The bases like first base, second base, third base on a baseball diamond. They used 150 recycled tires to help
Oh.
build those bases.
I see the vibe.
Yeah, and even the layer beneath the field, kind of the shock absorption layer beneath the field, they use 450 recycled shoe soles for
It's
that.
like a very Mad Max style court.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is environmental friendly court.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cool. We're seeing the court in Qingdao being remade, and the players are happy with it, which, by the way, I think is a really important point. Because if they made this court out of recycled tennis balls and the players said, no, I don't like this, it affects how the ball bounces or it affects how I feel on the court, even at an amateur level, I think people would complain about that, but they're not. And because they're not, it means they can do it again and again, and they can repeat this process. And now, because it's happening, with 16 cities involved already, I'm not sure what the expansion plans are, but I'm sure they must be there with all these different clubs. This seems like something that could become a bigger, perhaps, I don't know if industry is the right word to use, but done on a bigger scale
Yeah.
all around China. And
Totally.
if we have success with it here, along with the programs in America and Canada as well, then we might not look at tennis balls as the problem that they are for our environment. I was shocked by that statistic. 400 years underground is how long they stay. You have joined us on today's Roundtable. I'm Steve Hatherley with Yushen and Yushan. Stay with us. We're going to talk more when we come back. You're with us on Roundtable. I'm Steve Hatherley today with Yushan and Yushen. Coming up, there's a viral complaint going around China right now. Professors and employers losing their minds over students who don't know how to write a proper email. No subject lines, no sign-offs, just straight up chaos. But here's the thing. These kids grew up on apps. Email was never their world. So who is really out of touch here? Is it them? Or is it the rest of us? Don't forget, you can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcast. And don't forget, too, that we love to hear from you, so you can send us an email with anything that you would like to share with us. You can send us a voice note, too. That would be great. Roundtable Podcast at QQ.com. One more time, Roundtable Podcast at QQ.com. Okay, so emails. tell me, what was the last email you sent? Well, only tell me if you can tell me. But I want to get an idea of how often we use emails personally. When was the last time you sent an email and to who? What was it about?
You see, the last time I sent an email was to contact an interview for Yushun.
Oh, okay.
That was a long time ago, though.
That was a few months ago, not that long, but yeah, that's something that we use, is especially when we're trying to contact potential interviewees that works in a school, that we know that they're professors or teachers and lecturers who will constantly check their email more often than, I don't know, perhaps business leaders. So yeah, in that scenario, a well-written email, I remember I really fine-tuned my whole language when I was trying to draft it, and then I, of course, copy and paste it onto ChatGPT to have it polished,
Okay.
to add a bit of that formality to it, and also to shorten it, and then send it to, Professor, we really would like to have this chance to invite you to our show and share a little bit.
I saw you CC'd me, and
Yep.
that was a very well-written email, and I didn't expect that. Okay, Yushan is so good at writing emails, the language and then everything. It was perfect.
We're going to find out a little later that she used to be a teacher of email writing. What about for you, Yushin?
I couldn't even, because last time it was me writing an email to another colleague from another department, because that's what we need to do when we're contacting another colleague from another department. And I kind of have an anxiety of writing emails and receiving emails, because
Really?
whenever I received email means that this another department asked me to do another edits on the video that I just posted them.
So you assume it's bad news.
Yeah. So I don't like
work.
writing emails
Nope.
and also do all of these, quote unquote email etiquettes.
Question. When you see an email in the inbox, do you open it immediately, or because it gives you anxiety, do you kind of ignore it for a little while?
It's linked with my WeChat, so I can always see who sent it and what's the subject of it.
Unlink
no
it. Unlink it.
There's no escape.
All right. Well, let's get into the topic. This is an interesting one too. They found that many college students don't understand email etiquette, and this is a topic that's gone viral online.
Yeah, this is a very popular hashtag actually on the social media platform Weibo, and it is found that many college students don't understand email etiquette, and this hashtag has received more than 23 million views and also more than 7,000 discussions and around 28,000 comments.
That's so surprising to me that that's become such a hot topic on Chinese social media. How to write an email properly.
They were just claiming or complaining that these students, they have to search for a template online just to write a formal email, first of all, and others simply just write emails the way that they send a WeChat or QQ
Oh, yeah.
message, just like
I've
a
seen those
message.
before, yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people are saying and expressing that kind of genuine concern. They're concerning that college students, they don't know how to write emails.
So what are people saying? You said there's almost 30,000 comments online. What are people talking about?
Some of them are really funny. One person wrote, "I've recently received quite a few internship applications from college students. The biggest problem isn't that their resumes lack experience. It's just many of them simply don't know how to write a proper email. And some people put nothing in the subject line except resume."
This is okay. So this is a complaint from a professor.
No, from an HR that
HR.
received resumes from internship
Okay.
students, and some leave the entire body blank and just attach the file in the email. And then there are files named things like final version 2, really final.pdf.
Oh no, that was their own personal name.
They just
For the
don't
file.
rename the file, which means
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the HR, when they download it, they don't even know who that resume belongs to.
No, but I have sympathy for that person though, because that's how I label some of our roundtable stories. When I finish writing it, I'll say like final, and then I'm thinking, oh no, I want to add a different part to the story. So then I add it, and then I
Really
say
final.
really final or final, and then I'll put it into our group chat. So I do have a bit of sympathy for that person.
When-
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, so HR people are annoyed.
Yeah.
Professors are annoyed, and it's an issue that is frustrating both groups.
But some college students, they're also, pushing back against these kind of
I
criticisms.
was just about to say, but that not everybody's criticizing because some people are saying this criticism is not really fair.
Yeah, I have to say this one because one commenter joked that now I guess I should learn how to write on bamboo sleeves next.
Wait, what does a bamboo sleeve have anything to do with
Bamboo slips is like ancient form of writing letters.
in ancient China?
It's how
yes.
they used to write. So basically,
to
it's,
carve it.
Oh,
it's like saying emails are archaic. Everybody's using WeChat now anyway.
Sure.
Why do we need to care? Why do we need to care about emails? When we were having a chat about whether we were going to do this topic or not on the show, one of the interesting things that I learned is that email culture is a little bit different in China than it might be in the West.
I cannot say that China like literally skipped the time of the the population or the popularity of email, but there are very different scenarios when email is in China. So back in the 1990s, when internet access spread through China, email became very important in universities and also in business in companies. One example is Sina Mail, launched in 1998. So it brought to a wider public when email was quite popular.
that was also a time when Chinese people don't use a lot of cell phones as how we define cell phones today. So sending email remains to be a major way of correspondence, especially between higher education scenarios.
And then we go to the time around 1999 to 2000. That's the time when that social media platform or the instant message platform QQ was launched. For an entire generation of young Chinese internet users, QQ became a far more natural way to talk to people. You can send the message, receive the message very, very instantly. You don't need to wait for any second.
So QQ was like the old school WeChat, kind
Yes,
of.
exactly.
Sort of, yeah.
And it is actually still popular among maybe a certain group of people.
Among my
maybe.
generation, not
Yeah.
not any younger.
And then to the 2000s, email stayed important in universities and workplaces, but QQ and WeChat and the forums became the natural tools for
Yeah.
everyday communication. And, an entire generation learned to communicate digitally without ever building a strong habit of, formal email writing. So it is not that fair to university students, and for them it's just they've never used an email
Yeah.
for their time of using the internet.
I think the structure of how you send an email versus how you send a WeChat message is very different. Obviously, right? You're sending a text message versus sending a formal email.
Yeah.
But these college students would have been born in at a time when everything was done. We talk about 1999, QQ became popular, 2011, WeChat became popular. Well, today's college students would have grown up with instant messaging. So my point is that if you've grown up with instant messaging and you've always done your communicating with your friends through instant messaging and you've never used an email for anything,
Yeah.
well then how would you know how to write an email? You wouldn't. You would have no idea.
That's why a lot of commenters also saying that it should be a public course or mandatory course for college students to learn how to write emails, but still a lot of college students saying, why is that even necessary if we have all of the instant messages?
You see, for young people, and I'm speaking that's outside of just the context here within China. When I was younger, I remember sending emails from my side to the U.S. side when I was chatting with my American friends. And back then, instant messaging wasn't really a thing. And of course, I didn't have access to WhatsApp or Facebook. So emailing was the only way of correspondence, and it felt not too much different from just texting via WeChat. It has its kind of the idea of who you're sending this message to. If it's just a friend, a peer that end up in a different country who grew up using email and that whole system and the writing habit, then it end up just like texting, and there's no formality to it.
Yeah.
There's no format or the specific need.
It's not the complaint from the professors and from HR, and let's
Different scenario.
yeah, let's go back to their side of the argument
Okay.
now, because they're not saying young students or young potential employees don't know how to open a computer and click send after they write. They're not saying that. They're saying it's the content in it. It's things like the what do you call that? You can tell how often I send emails too. The thing where the title.
Subject line.
Yeah, thank you.
The
The subject,
body of
the
it,
subject line. They're complaining about that. They're complaining about the structure of the email. So it's a little bit of a different.
I guess
complaint.
where I was trying to land is for a lot of Chinese kids, we mistook email as another way of texting. And they didn't grow up with the idea that email should look like in a certain way.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
They carry this whole mentality to workplace too, as is showed by iMedia Research, which is a widely cited Chinese market research firm, that instant messaging tools are already the third most used category of office softwares here in China. It's used by over 40% of collaborative office users, behind only document platforms and video conferencing. So you see how massive it has been, or how common it has been for Chinese young workplace professionals to use instant messaging. So that's where we are kind of inclined to think about when we think about messaging. And also another research by Quest Mobile, and this is the data from 2025, their data show that 3 chat-based enterprise platforms, DingTalk,
Yeah.
and WeCom and Feishu, they now cover a combined 92% of China's collaborative office software market.
Question: what are those?
Like office apps that
Yeah.
you use for communicating with your colleagues.
Within
And they
the
have
office.
like special designs for
Workplace,
work-related
yeah.
processes. You can issue a contract on these platform. You can talk to another department member. So, and these things are really, really popular among nowadays, like especially in Chinese internet companies or new media companies. People just don't use email to like communicate with each other.
What was that? Sorry, I asked because I want to come back to it. What was that percentage? 92%?
92.
Yeah.
92%. I want to come back to that. Here's a question: is email dying? I remember this is kind of an issue. Not an issue. It was a topic within the tech industry many years ago. Predictions were made by this year. Email will be dead. Nobody will be using it anymore because of things, I guess, like instant messaging. Is it a dying thing? Is it looking to disappear?
It is kind of the opposite because, over the past, say, 10 to 15 years, do you think global email use has gone up or down? I think the number probably is going up. A Ready
too,
Caddy
yeah.
Group, it is a technology market research firm that tracked email use since the 1990s. Global email volume climbed from about 361 billion messages a day in 2024 to roughly 376 billion in 2025. So it is actually climbing up.
That doesn't surprise you, Yushan?
Not really. Previously, before I become part of Roundtable, I used to work in a publishing institute, and there we sent out hundreds of emails every day. Sometimes it's just by bot to invite someone as to participate in joining us as an editor. Sometimes it's something you type out as an invitation. So for certain job industries or for certain professional fields, like when it comes to academic research or correspondence between a student and their professors, the email is something they use day by day. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's not dropping. But I was indeed a little bit surprised by the fact that it's actually rising.
Yeah, I thought the number would have been going down, actually. And that's what experts predicted a long time ago, is that it would disappear, but it just hasn't, and it continues to grow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said, Yushin, that you get anxiety when
Yeah.
you see your inbox, ding, one new email. How do you think Gen Z American workers feel about using email in the workplace? I've got some stats here. Do you think that they prefer instant messaging or do you think that they prefer email? You said you get anxiety from email. How do
So
you-
my answer would be it must be instant message. That's what they prefer.
I would think email because email has always been the workplace prioritized correspondence way in the West, right?
Yushan, you are correct, but your logic is incorrect, though. This is really kind of interesting. So there was a survey from last year in 2025, and they found that 42% of Gen Z workers named email their favorite tool for professional communication.
What?
Yep, that's more than 20%. Double the 20% who picked chat apps like Slack. Slack's like what you described before, like an office instant messaging application, or WhatsApp was an option there too. Here's another one. This is cool. The reason why. So the same survey found that 60% of Gen Z respondents said they specifically use email so that they can avoid awkward real-time conversations at work. There was a clinical psychologist who talked about it in her research. Her name is Dr. Catherine Wickholm. And what she said was the reason we see those high numbers in terms of preference for using emails is because it creates a barrier of sorts for the person on the receiving end. So what that means is if you get, let's say we're sitting around the office, right, and we're all doing our work and ding, you get an instant message. Well, when you get the instant message on your phone, young Gen Z in America feel like, oh, I have to respond to this like immediately. I have to do that right now
Okay.
because that's how you communicate with your friends.
Yeah.
Right? But with email, there's that pressure doesn't really exist.
There's an implication of the fact that you can delay a little
Which
bit.
is why I asked you before, do you feel the need to reply to it immediately or do you even check it? Because I'm guessing, I don't have a stat on that, how often they check it, but because there's that degree of separation, that's why young Gen Z prefer that style of communication at the office.
And also, you don't know whether this person has already read the email.
Yeah.
You can just say, "Oh, I didn't check the email inbox."
But with instant messaging, you know immediately because that annoying check mark is there, right?
That's a good
That is a
excuse.
good way to have, like, quote unquote, like work-life balance. You can always separate your work life as the world of email, and then your instant message is your own personal life.
Yeah. I want to come back to China now and talk about this because if you said, oh, this is the statistic I wanted to return to, 92% of employees done in that study or survey
Yeah.
use instant messaging in the office, but yet HR is complaining that young people don't know how to use or don't know how to send a proper email. Professors are complaining that young students don't know how to send a proper email. And now I'll come back to the 92% again. Nobody's really using email in a Chinese office anyway. Well, then what's the big deal? Why is everybody annoyed if 92% of people aren't using emails anyway?
Yeah, that's a legit question that you can ask when you're in this kind of situation, and that's why a lot of college students are saying, as long as I send this email and I send this file to you, then it is a good email. Why do you care about all of these?
Okay, message is
matters,
delivered.
manners?
Shut up.
Yeah.
As long as
That's what
I
he
say.
said. But the thing is that they do, like HRs and professors, they do still care about the manners. I think one thing is about, there is a kind of a ritual of sending and
Yeah.
writing emails. It is giving you a sense of formal situation, right? And also email still does like things like that chat apps genuinely just aren't built for. One thing is that it creates a clear and also searchable record. Of course, chat apps can do that, but it's quite different by saying that the record that is being recorded. And also, it's essential for applying to jobs, submitting formal documents, communicating with a university, or working internationally. So,
Yeah, internationally would be like
Yeah.
before. Not everybody uses the same instant messaging apps, right? So that's a good point.
and how you write an email and the manner that you're having in these kind of emails generally creates a kind of impression when you're not having a good etiquette when you're writing these emails. And it's not only about the language, it's also about the etiquette, the format, the structure of all of these emails.
And I think the reason why so many professors and HRs they're feeling disappointed nowadays, by the very fact that young people don't perhaps know exactly how to draft an email, is because when it's an email instead of an instant message, the expectation is different. For an email, there's always a higher expectation for the formality, for how much attention and priority you're putting into your writing. And they don't see that among the emails sent by today's young people anymore. So there's this misunderstanding or stereotypical view of, wow, young people don't know how to write. But really, at the essence of this issue, I feel like whether you are going to do like global trade or write to a professor or not, writing an email is deemed since day one perhaps a skill that you need to know whether or not you're going to use it or not.
Or how often you're going to use it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it comes down to, and this is why I think HR is upset with young people and why professors are upset. I think there's two things. One is attention to detail,
Yeah.
like you mentioned. If you don't know, find out, right?
Right.
Right?
It's not like it's hard.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's called the internet. Go on there. And people are, 28,000 comments, people asking about this. That's one of the issues. And I think the other one is professionalism.
Yeah.
Even if you're talking to your professor, you want to show a certain level of respect, of course.
Yeah.
You want to stand out from your classmates, and you want to make, like you said, you shouldn't make a good impression. And when you send, what were some of the subject lines before?
Resume.
Resume. I mean, to be fair, that's what it is. It's not like it's mislabeled. It doesn't say grocery list. So I think those are two of the biggest things. And to be honest, I think it's a fair criticism. I'm not blaming young people for not knowing how, because growing up not knowing how to use something,
It's only natural.
if you've never been taught how to use it, well,
Yeah.
then it's not your fault that you don't know how to use it. But I don't think it's that hard to find out how to write a proper business email or a polite, respectful email, the proper structure online if you search. But I shouldn't be the one giving advice about that, because we have an actual email teacher, former email teacher,
Yeah.
in our midst.
I mean, previously I was pulled up to that position because they realized that the respondents from my email recipient shows to be higher comparing with other editors. So I was kind of carrying the role so that all of the editors know that the content is sent out and is not the end of that business, because writing email is a little bit more than just simply texting and delivering a message. And I guess that's what the HRs and the professors are trying to tell nowadays young people too. That is, it takes a little bit more to write an email, because when writing an email, you kind of need to always hold the mentality that you need to think of your writing from the recipient side. It's not just you writing. You need to picture what your writing looks like if you're the recipient. Is the message clear enough? If you're inviting someone like we used to as editors?
Hold on. Is the message? Write this down.
Not really.
Message
This
clear.
is no class for anybody. But really, I guess the real controversy in connection with today's topic is, we need to pay a little bit of effort on the email writing, especially when it comes to, you're submitting something.
And the reason why like your former company was calling you to do so is, I think, because you need to write emails to these professors and you need to have a better image for this whole company when you're writing just
I used to tease my previous colleagues that this is a perfect job for people pleasers like me.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So, but not that writing a good email, in order to write a good email, you have to be a people pleaser. I'm just joking aside. But the thing is, yeah, writing an email does take a bit more effort. And I think, like you said, it's not really that hard to learn. And that, yeah, it's something that's going to be beneficial for not only you, but also for the recipient when they see it.
Someday it will.
Someday, yeah.
But it's not like, you have to follow these kind of 19th century letter way of writing emails. You can.
Dearest sir or madam.
I hope this letter finds you well.
I don't know why my old man British voice came out there.
Anyway, so yeah, sometimes like hi, Professor Zhang, or is exactly right. That's the correct way to
Yeah.
like write it. And maybe the real skill isn't just memorizing every old rule. It's about knowing which rules actually matter in which kind of situation.
Yeah, which context?
Right.
Yeah.
What have you ever learned about this in school?
I actually did, because I studied business English. So there is a specific course called Business English Correspondence.
Cool.
And then they teach you, my teacher teach us how to write a like kind of business scenario email.
See, the real expert is right there. I'm only amateur.
Oh yeah, talking about professionalism, they have a kind of 4C business correspondence writing principle.
Wow.
4C means conciseness, clarity,
Oh, geez, hold on. Conciseness.
clarity, correctness, and courtesy. So express as much information as possible with as few words as possible. Avoiding unnecessary repetition,
Right.
expressing your meaning clearly, proper grammar, spelling, punctuation, professional terminology, and also using polite tone, appropriate forms of address, conventional phrases, and proper openings and closings. There are quite some rules
Yeah.
for you to actually follow when
It's-
you're writing in a formal way.
It's not a joke. I remember, I was an economics major for 2 years, so I had to take business classes.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't think it was a separate class, but it was definitely one of the lessons in one of the classes about writing a bad news email.
Oh,
Of
Yeah.
bad news
no,
to
that's tough.
Yeah, a bad news email. So the way that you do it, I don't know why this stood out in my memory all these years, but I still remember what the lesson said. When you deliver a bad news email, first it's like making a sandwich. So you want to go. Do you remember?
I know
You-
that sandwich way of rejecting people. First of all, saying that something nice, and then show what you actually want to say, and then use another way saying something nice.
Yeah. So what that means is positive, your bad news, positive. So it's like a bad news sandwich
That news patty.
with two positive pieces of bread.
That's actually a very like professional technique that you can use. Because I saw that on social media, because a lot of people saying that I don't know how to reject someone, and then people say you should use these sandwich technique.
It's like when you break up with somebody, right? You say like, look, you say, look, you're a really great person.
But don't break up with an email.
It's not me. It's not you. It's me. So you start with something great, and then you say, but you're single now. But I had a really great time during our relationship. Bye. That's kind of the same thing, right?
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me use that strategy to wrap up our show for today. Okay. We're going to do the bad news email style, okay?
Yeah.
Roundtable viewers, we thank you so much for joining our program today, but not only today, every single day that you are with us on the show. However, we regret to inform you that today's show has run out of time. But don't worry, we'll be back again with another episode of Roundtable next time. Sincerely, Steve. See? Easy breezy.
Perfect way.
For Yushin and Yushan,
wishes.
I am Steve Hatherley. And yes, sincerely, thanks for being with us on Roundtable today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.